All right, today we're going to talk about something you probably haven't thought much about. Enterprise software for fraternities and sororities. Yeah, you heard that right. It's a really cool case study about taking a super powerful platform and pointing it at a very specific, kind of complex market. Let's dig in and see how they pulled it off.
Okay, so let's just start with a thought experiment. Put yourself in charge of, say, a huge national fraternity. You've got hundreds of chapters all over the country, right? And each one is kind of like its own little franchise. Now think about this. Every single year, a massive chunk of your members, like a quarter of them, just graduate and leave, and a new wave of recruits comes in. How on earth do you keep track of all that? I mean, who's who? Who's paid their dues? How do you manage the finances and everything else across hundreds of these little outposts? Seriously, how?
Well, let's just call it what it is. It is a massive data headache. You've got this huge gap between what the national headquarters needs and what the local chapters need. HQ is thinking about big picture stuff, analytics, security, long-term planning. Meanwhile, the 19-year-old treasurer at the chapter level, they just need a super simple way to see who's paid up. It's a total logistical nightmare.
And that problem, that logistical nightmare, that's the exact opening for a very specific kind of software solution, one that's built to bring some serious, big league power to the world of Greek life.
So let's meet the main character of our story, Remember's CRM. Now, what's really important to get here is that it's two things at once. First, its foundation is Salesforce, and you've probably heard of them. They're a giant in the business software world for managing customer relationships. But, and this is the key part, it's not just off-the-shelf Salesforce. It's been totally rebuilt and customized from the ground up just for the weird, specific world of fraternal organizations.
The backstory here is pretty quick. The company started out as a thing called ChapterSpot. Then it got bought by a financial services company called Bill Highway. And just recently, the parent company decided to roll everything up under this one new brand, Remembers. And that's not just a name change. It's a sign that they're thinking much, much bigger now.
And this quote from them really nails their whole vision. Look, they're not just trying to build a glorified spreadsheet to track members. No way. The goal here is to create one single, seamless system that follows a member through their entire journey, from the moment they're a potential recruit, through their active years in the chapter, and all the way to becoming an alum and, a potential donor down the line. It's the whole shebang.
Okay, so that sounds great, but how do they actually do it, right? How do you build one thing that works for the corporate-style HQ and for a bunch of college students at the same time? Let's get into what makes it tick, the secret sauce, if you will. This right here, this is the core conflict. On one side of the ring, you've got headquarters. They need the heavy-duty stuff. Enterprise-level security, advanced reporting, a scalable system. Then, on the other side, you have the local chapters. What do they need? Something simple. A clean interface to manage the roster, track recruitment, see who the officers are. These two worlds are just completely different. So, their solution is actually pretty clever. You could call it a dual-platform system. Here's how it works. HQ gets the full-blown, powerful Salesforce experience with all the bells and whistles. But the chapters? They get a custom-built, super simplified portal. And the magic, the real genius, is that these two things are always talking to each other, syncing up in real time. The result? The chapters get a tool they don't hate using, which means they actually use it. That takes a ton of pressure off the HQ staff and, maybe most importantly, means the data going into the system is actually accurate.
But there is no free lunch. A system this powerful, this specialized, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Yeah, building on Salesforce gives you incredible power. But it also comes with some pretty serious trade-offs and, well, costs.
Okay, so let's talk about the money. When you're looking at software like this, there's the price you see on the proposal, and then there's the real cost, what they call the total cost of ownership. And trust me, that subscription fee is just the tip of the iceberg. You've also got to pay for the Salesforce licenses themselves. Then you have to pay someone to move all your old data over. You need to pay for implementation and setup. You have to train all your staff and the chapter volunteers. And what if you need changes down the road? Yep, more costs. It is a serious investment.
Which brings us to the million-dollar question, right? For all that money and effort, is it any good? Like, what are the actual users? The people clicking around in it every day, what do they really think?
And the answer is kind of surprising. We honestly don't really know. When we went looking for reviews on all the big software review sites, G2, Capterra, places like that, we found zero, nothing. Now hold on, that doesn't automatically mean it's a bad product. A lot of this super niche enterprise software just doesn't get publicly reviewed.
But it is a bit of a red flag. It means if you're thinking about buying this, you have to do your own homework, big time. Of course, if you go to their website, it's a different story. You'll find plenty of glowing testimonials, like this one here, calling it a really clean, elegant system that's going to be a game changer for how HQ works with its chapters.
But to get a fuller picture, we can look at reviews for a different product made by the same company. And there, the feedback is a little more lukewarm. We found one user who said the member directory was, and I quote, very bland. So you have this contrast, right? It just goes to show you really have to dig deep and talk to real users before you sign on the dotted line.
So here's the bottom line, the big trade-off. When you buy Remembers, you're not just buying their software, you are marrying the entire Salesforce ecosystem. And that's a double-edged sword. It's their biggest strength. You get world-class power, security, tons of integrations. But it's also their biggest weakness in a way. You're dependent on them. It can be complex, and your future is now tied directly to Salesforce.
Okay, so let's pull back from the specifics of Greek life for a second. Because this whole story isn't just about one product. It's actually a perfect example of a really smart and really common business playbook we're seeing all over the software industry. What a company like Remembers is doing, it's a strategic bet. They're betting that in today's world, the smartest move isn't to build a massive new piece of software from the ground up. The bet is that it's way smarter to take an existing, powerful platform and perfectly tailor it for one tiny, hyper-specialized market. And you can actually break this down into a 4-step playbook. Step 1, find a niche market that has a really painful, really specific data problem nobody has solved yet. Step 2, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Instead, grab a huge, powerful platform that already exists, like Salesforce. Step 3, build a custom skin or wrapper on top of it, something that looks and feels like it was made just for that niche, using their language and solving their exact problems. And finally, step 4, you use the power of that underlying platform as your secret weapon, your killer feature that no small competitor can match. And all this leaves us with a really big question to chew on. We've got these incredibly powerful general-purpose platforms now. Think Salesforce, Amazon Web Services, Google Workspace. Is the next wave of innovation going to come from making those platforms even more powerful? Or is the real future in the hands of thousands of smaller, smarter companies who take that raw power and act like sculptors, perfectly shaping it to solve the unique problems of 1,000 different little tribes? It's a fascinating thing to think about.